Diddy Trial, P. Diddy as a criminal in wild freak-off, details exposed. The long-awaited trial of Sean Diddy Combs has officially begun. In a courtroom packed with tension, the jury was selected, opening arguments were fired off, and two key witnesses, an ex-security guard and a male escort, took the stand. After months of swirling headlines, sealed documents, and explosive allegations, Sean Diddy Combs has finally faced the first official day in court. Cameras captured every moment as he arrived under tight security while the world tuned in, waiting to see what truths might be revealed. What unfolded inside wasn't just legal procedure. It was the opening act of a scandal that's already gripping Hollywood and beyond. Today, prosecutors came out swinging. They painted Diddy not as the music mogul fans admired, but as someone living a double life. To the world, he was Puff Daddy, a larger-than-life icon, they said. But behind closed doors, it was a very different story. Sean Diddy Combs trial day 1. First witnesses take the stand. Prosecutors wasted no time unveiling what they claimed was the dark reality behind the music mogul's empire. According to them, Diddy wasn't just a celebrity, he was the orchestrator of a tightly controlled inner circle, accused of running a secretive operation for years. They described him as manipulative, dominating, and prone to extreme behavior. Witnesses allege he subjected them to bizarre, days-long private events, referred to in court as freak-offs or Wild King Night. But the defense pushed back hard. They admitted Sean Combs is a complex figure, but insisted the case itself is simple. His lawyer addressed the now infamous surveillance footage showing Combs dragging and kicking his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, acknowledging it shows clear domestic violence. However, they argued that one disturbing incident doesn't prove any wider criminal scheme. Inside the courtroom, Diddy's mother and children sat quietly behind him, a show of unwavering support as he now stands accused of 5 federal charges, including racketeering conspiracy. If convicted, Combs could spend the rest of his life behind bars. He has denied every allegation. Now it's up to a jury of 8 men and 4 women to decide what comes next, and in the next segment, we'll take a closer look at who they are and why they could be the most important people in Diddy's life right now. The defense wasted no time trying to soften the picture painted by prosecutors. They argued that what's being described as exploitation were, in reality, consensual encounters, saying Diddy simply lived a bold, unconventional lifestyle as a high-profile celebrity. What country are you watching from? Drop your flag in the comments, and don't go anywhere because the wildest twists in Diddy's trial are still to come. In today's trial, Sean Diddy Combs entered the courtroom just before 9 a.m., dressed in a grey sweater, matching slacks and glasses. He greeted his family with a wave and even formed a heart with his hands, a quiet moment of emotion before the storm. At the defense table, he appeared focused, organizing paperwork and most notably reading a Bible. The sight didn't go unnoticed. Observers whispered that perhaps he was seeking strength or clarity as the high-stakes proceedings began. Once finished, he carefully placed the Bible into his briefcase, a subtle confirmation of what many suspected. This was more than just a legal battle. It was deeply personal. Diddy's family showed up in full force. His adopted son, Quincy Brown, biological sons Justin and Christian, his daughters Delilah, Jessie, and Chance, all were there. His ex-partner, Misa Hilton, and his mother, Janice Combs, joined them in a show of unwavering support. Sean Diddy Combs isn't walking into court alone. He's backed by a powerhouse legal team. Leading the defense is famed attorney Mark Geragos, known for representing controversial figures like Knicks EVM's Keith Raniere. Alongside him is his daughter, Tenny Geragos, rising in the legal world. The defense lineup also includes appellate expert Alexander Shapiro, Brian Steele, who recently defended rapper Young Thug, and Xavier Donaldson, a top-tier defense lawyer with deep roots in New York's Southern District. The team is further reinforced by trusted aides Anna, Jason, and Linda. But the prosecution is just as formidable. Representing the government is the Southern District of New York, one of the most relentless legal teams in the nation, boasting a near unmatched conviction rate of 90 to 95%. While interim U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton isn't physically in the courtroom, his presence is felt through the high-profile team he's put in place. Among them is Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, and in a move that many see as both strategic and symbolic, the prosecution is made up entirely of women, a powerful statement in a case involving numerous female accusers. With legal giants on both sides and bombshell testimony already shaking the courtroom, this trial isn't just about one man. It's shaping up to be one of the most closely watched celebrity showdowns in recent memory. The prosecution has begun building its case by calling a male escort and a former security guard to the stand, both significant witnesses. This move appears to serve a dual purpose. First, to introduce and legitimize a key piece of video evidence, and second, to lay the groundwork for a major testimony from someone central to the case, likely Cassie Ventura. Legal analysts believe Cassie may testify as early as tomorrow. She's considered victim number one by the prosecution, and her testimony could be a pivotal moment in the trial. There's also a practical reason for her early appearance. Cassie is visibly pregnant, which could limit her ability to travel or participate later in the proceedings. Getting her in and out quickly may be part of the logistical strategy. Interestingly, her husband was seen leaving the courthouse today, adding to speculation that Cassie will take the stand imminently. While it may seem early in the trial for such a key witness, it could reflect the prosecution's intention to open strong and set the tone for the rest of the case. In a shocking moment during the trial, a male witness testified that he was paid to have sex with Cassie Ventura while Sean Diddy Combs sat in the corner watching, and as this was being said in court, Diddy calmly pushed his chair back, crossed his legs and showed no reaction. Meanwhile, his daughters quietly left the courtroom. Israel Flores, a former security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel, recalled responding to an emergency call on March 5, 2016, about a distressed woman on the 6th floor. When he arrived, he saw a shaken Cassie Ventura and Diddy sitting nearby with what Flores described as a devilish stare. Flores walked the jury through key surveillance footage, some shown in court, some he had saved on his phone. The video showed Cassie in blue pants and a hoodie, barefoot, putting on socks near the elevator. Suddenly, Diddy came charging around the corner, shoved her from behind, knocked her down and stomped on her. The violent encounter didn't stop there. Key details of the final jury selection. The jury seated for Sean Diddy Combs' trial is made up of 8 men and 4 women, and there's already plenty of buzz about who they are. Their backgrounds are diverse, from a massage therapist to a retired telephone lineman. But what really stands out is their age. Most are over 50 and one juror is 74 years old. In evaluating the 12 jurors selected for the trial, consultants are analyzing more than just gender and age. They're focusing heavily on the jurors' occupations, as these can influence whether someone approaches the case emotionally or analytically. Why does that matter? Legal analysts say older jurors are not only more available for long trials, this one is expected to last 8 weeks, but they may also have more traditional views, especially when it comes to issues like consent. That subtle generational difference could end up benefiting the defense. Now, when it comes to jury selection, it's not about finding the perfect juror. It's about removing the wrong ones. Lawyers on both sides work to eliminate people who seemed biased or uninterested. In the end, each team believes they've kept jurors who could lean their way. The defense is banking on neutrality or even quiet sympathy. The prosecution? They're confident this group can hand down a conviction. From the list of current jurors, several appear favorable to the prosecution. These include a social worker, a non-profit employee, and someone who works at a nursing home, professions that suggest a more emotionally sensitive perspective, which could align with the prosecution's strategy in this emotionally charged case. On the other hand, there are also jurors with highly analytical backgrounds, such as an investment analyst, a logistics analyst, and a scientist. These individuals are more likely to scrutinize the evidence closely and be less swayed by emotional testimony. Attorneys use this occupational insight to shape their arguments. The prosecution may lean into emotional storytelling and survivor testimonies to connect with jurors who are naturally empathetic. Meanwhile, the defense will aim to separate emotion from fact, urging the more analytical jurors to focus strictly on the legal charges and not get carried away by emotional reactions to Sean Combs' behavior or past. Ultimately, the jury's mix of emotional and analytical thinkers could lead to a complex deliberation process, one where logic and empathy may clash as they decide Combs' fate. On a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you think Diddy will be found guilty? 1 means completely innocent, 10 means absolutely guilty. Drop your number in the comments and let the debate begin. Diddy Trial plot twist, victim 3 goes missing. Just as jury selection in the Sean Diddy Combs trial nears completion, a major curveball hits the prosecution. One of their key witnesses, identified as victim 3, has vanished without a trace. This sudden disappearance throws a wrench into the government's case and sends shockwaves through the courtroom. Meanwhile, another twist has rocked the headlines. Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who was previously caught on video enduring a violent assault, is now confirmed to be pregnant. Victim 3, who was set to testify and reveal her identity in court, has suddenly pulled back. Prosecutors planned for her to deliver explosive testimony, but now they can't even reach her. Some believe she may simply be afraid, rattled by the pressure, or possibly having second thoughts. But in a case already flooded with twists, her disappearance raises far more questions than it answers. So what happens if victim 3 never shows? Legal insiders are sounding the alarm. One attorney warned that the sudden disappearance of such a key witness could seriously damage the prosecution's momentum, especially since several other accusers are already reluctant to take the stand. Still, another legal expert claims the case isn't dead yet. With multiple alleged victims still scheduled to testify, the prosecution may be able to push forward. But in a trial already steeped in Hollywood scandals, losing victim 3 could be the twist that changes everything. Building a case against someone as rich and influential as Diddy isn't just hard, it's a legal battlefield. The allegations stretch across 2 decades, from 2004 to 2024, making it even harder to connect the dots. Prosecutors are racing against time to protect witnesses and secure their testimonies, but in a case this explosive, fear looms large. Public pressure is intense, and many potential witnesses are terrified to speak out. That's the harsh reality of prosecuting Hollywood scandals, especially when the accused holds power, money, and a media spotlight. Adding to the complexity, many of the allegations are deeply personal, intimate, private, and humiliating. These aren't just legal claims. They're dark episodes that happen behind closed doors. That alone makes potential witnesses hesitate. It's not easy to relive moments like that in public, let alone in a courtroom. Investigators are forced to spend countless hours building trust, slowly, carefully, just to get someone to open up. But Diddy isn't just facing a scandal, he's staring down some of the most serious charges imaginable. Federal prosecutors allege he ran a full-blown criminal enterprise using his companies, including Bad Boy Entertainment, as a front. According to the government, he didn't just pull strings, he used threats, weapons, and various forms of abuse, emotional, physical, and beyond, to control people and protect his empire. What's more chilling? The original indictment claimed Diddy was likely to retaliate against anyone who dared testify, and now prosecutors say the intimidation didn't stop after his arrest. They believe he's been trying to silence witnesses even from behind bars. If the prosecution's claims hold up, this could be a textbook case of witness tampering. According to reports, Diddy didn't just try to silence people, he may have also pushed others to speak out in his defense. In one instance, it's alleged that he even helped draft a statement for a woman meant to discredit one of his accusers in a civil case. That's not just aggressive, it's calculated. Witness tampering is a serious offense on its own, but layered onto everything else Diddy is accused of, it paints a chilling picture. While he maintains his innocence, legal experts agree. Where there's smoke, there's usually fire, and in a case this packed with disturbing claims, there may be more than just smoke. Do you think Diddy tried to silence his accusers from behind bars? Yes or no? Type yes if you believe the witness tampering claims are real, or no if you think it's just a legal strategy by the prosecution. If convicted, Diddy could be looking at a minimum of 15 years, possibly even life behind bars. Despite the mounting evidence and headlines, he continues to insist he's innocent. But even before opening statements began, the trial faced delays. Jury selection turned into a major obstacle, with several candidates backing out, unwilling to get involved in such a high-stakes, high-profile case. The judge addressed the hold-up, saying the court was simply being cautious to ensure everything runs fairly and without disruption. Interestingly, Johnny Depp's former attorney, Ben Chu, weighed in with his take on jury strategy. I think you want somebody who wants to serve, someone eager to serve, because that suggests that person might be inclined toward a celebrity like Diddy. I would also, in this case, I would want men, not because men support abuse, but I could see this being very difficult for women jurors. Ben Chu didn't stop there. He added that if he were advising Diddy, he'd push for younger jurors. Older jurors might not work in his favor, he explained. Youth could bring a different kind of empathy, or at least less judgment toward a celebrity lifestyle. Diddy's legal team is preparing to argue that his past relationships weren't as one-sided as they seem. In other words, they'll claim the drama went both ways, that both parties were responsible for what happened, but legal experts warn that's a risky defense. Because even if both sides had issues, it doesn't erase the core accusation, abuse of power. What really matters is who held the control. And if Diddy used his wealth, status, and influence to manipulate or dominate others, that remains a serious legal and moral issue. And for those who couldn't be controlled, the consequences could be terrifying. Just ask Aubrey O'Day, who once worked closely with Diddy. I wasn't willing to do what was expected of me. Not talent-wise, but in other areas, she said. It's difficult when you're that young to understand your worth as a woman through the men that I was around. And that was very traumatic. I don't think any of us have healed from that. She recalled how Diddy tore her down over her appearance. Diddy would be like, "You're not hot anymore," like, "What happened? You don't have anything, like you don't have any curves. You're looking like just... You're not looking like I can't get people to think that you're my good-looking person." Jurors don't usually respond well when the defense tries to paint the victim as equally at fault. That kind of tactic can easily backfire, and Diddy's legal team may be walking a dangerous line. At the heart of their strategy is a hotel surveillance video showing what appears to be a physical altercation between Diddy and his former partner, Cassie Ventura. His lawyers are expected to downplay the incident, possibly framing it as nothing more than a heated personal dispute, something private, not criminal. But that won't be easy. Cassie, who's now pregnant, is set to take the stand under her real name, while most other alleged victims remain anonymous. Legal experts say her current condition could make her more relatable and emotionally powerful in the eyes of the jury. Her smaller stature could also weaken any claim that she shared equal responsibility in what happened. Meanwhile, Diddy continues to deny every allegation. He's pleaded not guilty, and in a bold move, has reportedly rejected every plea deal offered. That alone has raised eyebrows and suggests he's either supremely confident or ready to gamble everything. Major new evidence could derail P. Diddy's sex trafficking trial. Once celebrated as a billionaire mogul, a powerhouse in music, business, and entertainment, Diddy's empire is now under serious threat. The spotlight has shifted, and it's no longer about fame or fortune. Attorney Andrew Van Arsdale, who already represents 37 individuals in civil cases against Diddy, dropped a bombshell in an interview with CNN. He revealed that more than 400 additional potential claims are waiting in the wings. If even a fraction of those move forward, this could spiral into one of the biggest legal battles the industry has ever seen. According to Van Arsdale, many of the individuals who haven't yet stepped forward are terrified of the potential consequences if Diddy isn't convicted. The power he holds over the industry, coupled with the threats they fear to their careers, has kept them silent for so long. Van Arsdale explained, "I think there's a real fear. What if he walks free? What if he's acquitted and back in the public eye in just 2 months? What will happen to those who dared to speak up?" He added that the fear remains real, with his clients still terrified of the fallout. This mirrors what attorney Tony Busby alluded to earlier in the year, when he hinted that even more cases could be coming to light. Van Arsdale revealed a staggering number. His office has fielded nearly 27,000 calls about Diddy. After sifting through prank calls and unsubstantiated claims, they estimate that around 15,000 of those were legitimate complaints. Even more shocking, he believes that over 400 of them could escalate into real lawsuits, and some of them have the potential to be massive. According to Van Arsdale, the list of names is already long and growing. While he admits some of them are familiar, his team is holding back on making anything public until every detail is verified. But if the information they've received holds up, the names they're preparing to release could shake the industry to its core. Van Arsdale isn't alone in this legal storm. At least a dozen other attorneys are now representing individuals who have filed lawsuits against Diddy. These claims span different people, locations, and time periods, painting a picture that's far bigger than anyone expected. And it doesn't stop there. One lawsuit has even thrown in a shocking twist by mentioning LeBron James. But the most explosive development yet comes out of Florida, where a man named Joseph Menzero has just filed a federal lawsuit, and what's inside that case could send shockwaves across the country. What makes this Florida lawsuit even more intense is that Joseph Menzero isn't hiding behind anonymity. He's putting his real name on the line. In his complaint, Menzero claims he was the victim of a coordinated and deeply disturbing operation that began in 2015. According to the filing, he was allegedly drugged, transported without consent, and subjected to horrific abuse as part of what he describes as a highly organized scheme involving powerful figures. The lawsuit outlines a long-standing pattern of intimidation, cover-ups, manipulation, and psychological control that, he claims, lasted for years, long enough to extend the legal timeline for filing under federal law. And then comes the jaw-dropping part. The complaint names several high-profile individuals: Jacob Arabo, Jay-Z, Gloria Estefan, LeBron James, and Beyoncé Knowles Carter, not as defendants, but as potential witnesses, citing their alleged knowledge or presence during what Menzero calls freak-off events, reportedly led by Diddy. The term freak-off has surfaced repeatedly, not just in Diddy's criminal case, but in multiple civil lawsuits as well. It's used to describe controversial, long-lasting private gatherings that have raised serious concerns over the years. And in this latest lawsuit, Menzero isn't just taking on Sean Combs. He's also naming Eric Macias and Brendan Paul as defendants. Paul, in particular, has been described in a separate lawsuit as someone closely tied to Combs, allegedly tasked with managing questionable activities behind the scenes. Prosecutors have just introduced new evidence, and while much of it is still sealed from public view, legal analysts believe it's directly tied to the growing number of civil lawsuits against Diddy. Although the court documents have been heavily redacted, experts say the contents suggest prosecutors may be highlighting troubling behavior involving underage individuals. This would be a major move to establish a pattern of misconduct. With over 30 lawsuits already stacked against him and damning video footage showing him physically attacking Cassie, the pressure is closing in fast. Many believe it's no longer a question of if Diddy will face serious consequences, but when. The allegations now on the table implicate a vast network of unidentified witnesses and alleged co-conspirators spanning the globe. What makes it even more chilling is that some of the key witnesses connected to these incidents are no longer alive, complicating the defense's ability to mount a counter-argument. The defense is in an incredibly tight spot. They're not even allowed to disclose the identities of those mentioned in the case's disclosure letter to Diddy himself. This severely limits their ability to conduct any meaningful investigation. With these new accusations on the table, experts agree that the case is set to drag on for months, if not years. If the court allows these revelations to stand, they could spark a series of mini-trials, potentially doubling the original estimated timeline of just 3 weeks. This is an explosive allegation, and honestly, it's hard to dismiss entirely. If prosecutors are introducing evidence of uncharged conduct, the defense should have the right to investigate and challenge it. The very fact that they're bringing it up seems to suggest they have a strong point to make. If the court allows this evidence to stand, it could lead to significant delays, possibly dragging the trial out far beyond what anyone initially anticipated. The stakes are higher than ever, and the clock is ticking. Diddy's legal team has argued that all the so-called freak-off tapes and baby oil recovered from his mansion were seized illegally, claiming the search warrants weren't properly obtained. They've demanded that this evidence be thrown out, but Judge Arun Subramanian ruled otherwise, declaring all the submitted evidence admissible. Now it's looking increasingly likely that these tapes will be presented in court and possibly played in front of the public. As Diddy fights to suppress the evidence in his federal trial, the pressure is mounting, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Diddy's defense team is pushing hard to suppress any evidence obtained during the controversial searches, arguing that the government misrepresented the facts when applying for the search warrants. They claim certain crucial details were left out and salacious, unverified claims from an unnamed producer were included, painting a false narrative. The charges against Diddy are serious: racketeering, conspiracy, trafficking, and prostitution, but he has pleaded not guilty to all of them. The defense is also challenging the portrayal of his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, claiming she was not coerced into participating in the alleged freak-off activities, but rather was a willing participant in what they describe as drug-fueled performances. This challenge comes just 3 months before trial, adding even more fuel to the fire. In the meantime, Diddy has lost one of his attorneys, Anthony Rico, who made it clear he could no longer represent him, though the reason for his exit remains unclear. As the legal battle rages on, 2 civil lawsuits against Diddy have already been dropped, one because the accuser refused to reveal her identity, and another after inconsistencies in the woman's story and Jay-Z's denial led to a withdrawal. Diddy's legal team has also pointed out other discrepancies, including one male accuser who gave an interview to CNN in December 2024, but whose account didn't match his original lawsuit. Van Arsdale, one of the attorneys, attributed this to a paperwork error, but claimed it was now rectified. Even though Diddy's criminal and civil cases are separate, some of Van Arsdale's clients are reportedly cooperating with federal investigators and could be called to testify in the future. Van Arsdale, undeterred by the turbulence of the case, vows to continue pushing for justice on behalf of his clients. "My clients will be ecstatic if and when he's convicted and behind bars," he said. "But the real victory for them will come when there's accountability for everything they've endured." Julie Chrysley. In June 2022, Julie and Todd Chrysley, stars of Chrysley Knows Best, were convicted of serious financial crimes, including tax evasion and obtaining loans under false pretenses. The couple fraudulently acquired over $30 million from banks, which they used to fund a lavish lifestyle, instead of making legitimate investments or charitable donations. Their excessive spending and attention-grabbing purchases were all backed by dishonest means, contributing to a public image of wealth that they had carefully cultivated. Their legal troubles began in 2019 when they were indicted on charges of tax evasion, conspiracy, and bank and wire fraud. After a lengthy trial, they were found guilty of all charges. Julie was sentenced to 7 years in prison, while Todd received a 12-year sentence. The couple was reportedly stunned by the outcome and expressed disbelief at the prospect of spending years behind bars. They immediately announced plans to appeal the convictions. The scandal had a significant impact on their reality show, with Chrysley Knows Best and its spin-offs being cancelled by the USA Network. Producers, who had been assured by the couple that they were innocent, were reportedly disappointed by the outcome, having been led to believe the situation would resolve and the Chrysleys would return to their normal lives. In an unexpected twist, Todd's 77-year-old mother allegedly committed perjury during the sentencing phase of the trial. She reportedly lied on the stand at the couple's request to take some of the blame for their actions. Prosecutors, however, painted Todd and Julie as a walking crime wave, accusing them of being career criminals who lied to banks, evaded taxes, and defrauded vendors for years. After the conviction, Julie attempted to delay her prison sentence by asking the judge for permission to serve time at home until her adopted daughter turned 18, citing concerns about the child's well-being. However, the judge denied her request and Julie began serving her sentence. Meanwhile, Todd and Julie's legal team filed appeals, maintaining their innocence and accusing the government of misleading the jury, claiming that their accountants were to blame for their financial issues. Despite their convictions, the Chrysleys continued to maintain their innocence, framing themselves as victims of the justice system. Todd and Julie have stayed active on social media, sharing cryptic posts that reflect their frustration and self-pity over their legal situation. As of 2025, Todd is serving his 12-year sentence at a federal prison in Pensacola, Florida, while Julie is incarcerated at the Federal Medical Center in Lexington, Kentucky, serving her 7-year sentence. Savannah, who has taken on the responsibility of caring for her younger siblings, has publicly supported her parents, despite the ongoing legal battles. The Chrysleys remain focused on appealing their sentences, hoping for a different outcome. Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart, a household name known for her lifestyle empire, hasn't seen the inside of a jail cell in nearly 2 decades. However, her past legal troubles still make for a dramatic story. Back in December 2001, Martha sold off a significant amount of stock in a company, only for its value to drop 16% the very next day. It later came to light that she had received a tip from her broker at Merrill Lynch, which authorities deemed insider trading. In June 2003, she was indicted by a grand jury on charges of securities fraud and obstructing justice. By March 2004, Martha was convicted of lying to federal investigators and obstructing their probe. She was sentenced to 5 months in federal prison, along with a $30,000 fine. On top of that, the SEC slapped her with a nearly $200,000 settlement in a civil suit. As part of her punishment, she was banned from holding any executive positions, such as CEO or CFO, for 5 years, which meant no involvement in the management or auditing of public companies. In 2017, Martha reflected on her time behind bars during a podcast interview. She described the experience as horrifying and emphasized that no one should have to go through that kind of indignity, except for murderers and a few other categories. Despite the grim chapter in her life, Martha's ability to bounce back and rebuild her career remains a testament to her resilience. It's one of the many shocking stories in Hollywood gossip that remind us that even the most polished public figures have skeletons in their closets. Heidi Flice. Heidi Flice, the name once synonymous with scandal and controversy, had a meteoric rise in the world of Hollywood's darkest secrets before crashing down in a whirlwind of criminal charges and public disgrace. Known as the Hollywood Madam, Flice ran one of the most infamous prostitution rings in the history of Hollywood, catering to the rich and famous. In the early 90s, she controlled an empire that allegedly serviced some of the biggest names in show business. Flice had made millions through her high-end escort service, which was a well-kept secret until it was exposed by an investigation that rocked the entertainment world. In 1993, after an extensive sting operation, Heidi was arrested, and her life as Hollywood's Queen of the Night came to a shocking halt. She was convicted in 1994 on felony charges of pandering and money laundering, as well as tax evasion. While many believed the charges were politically motivated due to her high-profile connections, the evidence against her was overwhelming, and she was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. However, she only served 3 years before being released on parole in 1999. Her criminal conviction didn't mark the end of her story. Heidi Flice's name continued to be a tabloid sensation, and she even attempted a variety of business ventures, including opening a laundromat for exotic animals, a project that sparked as much intrigue as it did confusion. Despite her attempt to reinvent herself, her life continued to spiral into a series of misfortunes, including brushes with the law, a conviction for drug possession in 2014, and allegations of illegal activities. In the years following her release from prison, Flice briefly attempted to enter the public spotlight again, even starring in her own reality show. But the lasting legacy of her time as the Hollywood Madam would forever overshadow her fleeting attempts at reinvention. Today, Heidi Flice's name remains one that draws attention, but not necessarily the kind she'd have hoped for. Some see her as a victim of circumstance, a product of a corrupt system, while others view her as a prime example of the dark side of fame and wealth. Whatever your take, one thing is certain. Heidi Flice's life continues to fascinate, a cautionary tale of the price one pays for living life on the air. Victoria. Cheyenne Shea Victoria was once hailed as one of Brazil's brightest esports stars, a champion gamer turned influencer with a massive online following. She even won the prestigious Brazil Game Cup Female Award in 2019, dominating the Counter-Strike scene with unmatched skill and swagger. But instead of leveling up her career, Shea took a dark detour into deceit, one that would cost her everything. In a shocking twist, Cheyenne was sentenced to a jaw-dropping 116 years in prison for her role in a massive fraud scheme linked to an online store she helped run from 2013 to 2017. During that period, nearly 120 customers came forward, claiming they had paid for products that never arrived. Their complaints totaled over $10,000 in losses, and the excuses were even more outrageous. Customers were told delivery trucks had crashed and delays were being worked out. But the lies couldn't hold forever. Frustrated victims eventually reported the scam to the Public Ministry of São Paulo, MPSP, prompting an investigation that exposed Shay as a central figure in the fraudulent operation. Despite attempts to deflect blame, authorities tied her directly to the business and its deceptive practices. She was arrested, charged with embezzlement and fraud, and hit with an eye-popping sentence. However, there's a twist. Under Brazilian law, the maximum prison time anyone can serve is 30 years, meaning Shay likely won't see a full 116 behind bars. Still, the sentence sends a strong message: fame is no shield from the law. Shay has since spoken out on social media, claiming it's all a misunderstanding. She insists the store had made over 10,000 legitimate sales and that the allegations are being blown out of proportion. But with that kind of prison time hanging over her head, fans are left wondering, is Shay a victim of a flawed system or a master manipulator who got caught? Allison Mack. Allison Mack, once adored by fans for her role as Chloe Sullivan on Smallville, experienced a shocking fall from grace. In 2006, at the height of her popularity, Mack's life took a darker turn when she became involved with a controversial cult called NXIVM. By 2015, she had risen to a leadership role within the group, overseeing a subsect where she was tasked with recruiting slaves for the cult's founder. Her duties included gathering compromising material on these individuals, securing control over their assets, and even branding them with the founder's initials. The branding ceremony was a chilling affair, taking up to 30 minutes per person and reportedly accompanied by the chant, "Feel the pain, feel the love," as initiates endured the painful ritual. The FBI caught wind of these disturbing practices, and in 2018 they arrested Mack, charging her with sex trafficking and forced labor. Facing a potential 15 years to life in prison, Mack had no superhero to rescue her and decided to strike a plea deal. In exchange for her cooperation, where she testified against the NXIVM founder, the man responsible for the operation was sentenced to 120 years in prison. As for Mack, her punishment was far less severe. In June 2021, she was handed a relatively light sentence of 3 years, along with 3 years of probation and a $20,000 fine. Mack served just 2 years of her sentence before being released in July 2023. Her involvement in one of the most shocking Hollywood scandals in recent years left a lasting impact, transforming her from a beloved TV star to a cautionary figure. Was Allison Mack a true villain or just another victim of manipulation? Type yes if you believe she knew exactly what she was doing, or no if you think she was brainwashed. Comment below and tell us where you stand in this controversy. Cheyenne Shaver. Theresa Giudice. Theresa Giudice, best known for her role on The Real Housewives of New Jersey, has been a fixture in pop culture for over a decade. The show, which ran for 12 successful seasons, also sparked spin-offs, including Theresa Checks In, documenting her life post-incarceration. Born in May 1972 to Italian immigrants, Theresa's early years were spent twirling a baton, playing the saxophone in high school, and studying fashion at Berkeley College. After working at Macy's, she found her big break when she joined The Real Housewives of New Jersey during its inaugural season. Her rise to fame didn't stop at reality TV stardom. Theresa leveraged her popularity and media presence to co-author a series of successful cookbooks, using her culinary skills to build a brand. In addition to her cookbooks, she wrote a memoir detailing her prison experiences and another, Standing Strong, which was released in October 2017. However, Theresa's story took a dark turn in 2013 when she and her husband were hit with a 39-count indictment. The charges included mail fraud, bank fraud, wire fraud, bankruptcy fraud, and lying on their loan applications. Her husband was also accused of evading income taxes between 2004 and 2008. Despite initially maintaining their innocence, the couple eventually entered a plea deal. In October 2014, Theresa was sentenced to 15 months in prison, though she served less than a year. Her husband received a 41-month sentence, followed by deportation to Italy. The couple was also fined $414,000. The trial judge expressed frustration over their failure to fully cooperate with authorities, which contributed to the lengthy prison sentence for Theresa, who had hoped for probation. During her time in prison, Theresa did not hold back in sharing her grievances. She granted multiple interviews after her release, calling the conditions of the jail hellish. She described her time behind bars as living without hot showers, central heating, or even running water. Teresa vehemently maintained her innocence, claiming that her only crime was signing documents that her ex-husband had pushed her to sign. Despite her legal troubles, she managed to rebuild her career and family life after her release. Teresa Judas's story is one of fame, scandal, and redemption, as she navigated the challenges of both reality TV fame and the consequences of her legal battles. Tammy Lin Sitch. Tammy Lin Sitch, once a WWE star known for her larger-than-life persona, spiraled into a series of scandals that left her in and out of jail for years. In 2012, the former wrestling manager and actor who had once dazzled fans with her presence began making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Over the course of a single month, law enforcement was called on her 5 times. She faced charges such as violating a protective order, disorderly conduct, and even third-degree burglary, which led to a 114-day jail sentence. By May 2013, she was released, but the trouble didn't end there. Though Tammy attempted to calm her behavior, her troubles resurfaced. Between May and June 2015, she was arrested multiple times in Pennsylvania for driving under the influence. She pled guilty to DUI charges, receiving a 90-day sentence in jail, during which she also went through rehab. However, her legal woes weren't over. A probation violation kept her locked up until February 2017. Early the following year, still on probation, Tammy was arrested twice more for DUI offenses. She was even accused of fleeing from an accident caused by her impaired driving. Her refusal to attend court hearings eventually led to another arrest for contempt of court and being a fugitive from justice in February 2018. As if her legal troubles weren't chaotic enough, it was revealed she had been evading the justice system for years. After some back and forth between states, Tammy was released from jail in October 2018, only to face even more charges. In February 2019, a bench warrant was issued for her arrest, and she was sent back to jail later that month, this time in New Jersey. After being transferred to Pennsylvania to face her charges, Tammy spent over a year behind bars, eventually being released in February 2020. But the rollercoaster ride continued. In July of the same year, she was arrested again for driving with a suspended license, fleeing from police and violating a restraining order. Her freedom, however, came in June 2021, when a court order granted her release. The events took an even darker turn in 2022. On January 13th, she was arrested in New Jersey for threatening someone with a weapon and making violent threats. After spending a night in jail, she was ordered to check in with authorities. Tammy was facing up to 11 years behind bars for this offense alone. Yet in February of the same year, she was arrested again for drunk driving. In her typical fashion, she faced a slew of charges in New Jersey, but things escalated even further. In March 2022, Tammy's behavior reached a tragic peak. Under the influence of both alcohol and drugs, she caused a fatal crash that took the life of a 75-year-old man. Arrested for DUI and manslaughter, she was initially released on bail but was later deemed too dangerous to be free. In May 2022, she was brought back to jail, facing up to 26 years for this devastating incident. With her lawyer having withdrawn from the case and no money to hire another, Tammy is relying on the public defender's office to represent her. This shocking fall from grace is one of the most jaw-dropping Hollywood scandals in recent memory. From a WWE diva to a woman facing serious jail time, Tammy Lin Sitch's story is a cautionary tale about fame gone wrong. Jennifer Shah. Jennifer Shah was introduced to viewers in 2020 as a cast member on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, where the spotlight was on the lives and careers of some of Utah's most intriguing women. During a late 2020 interview on Housewives Nightcap, when asked about her profession, Jennifer proudly described herself as a successful businesswoman, saying, "I own 3 different marketing companies, focusing on lead generation, data monetization, and customer acquisition." She went on to compare her role to that of the Wizard of Oz, working behind the scenes to make things happen, like targeting ads that seem to know exactly what you're shopping for. Jennifer boasted about her extensive marketing expertise, explaining how she made money off every click people made online. "I've been blessed to be successful with my marketing background," she said, claiming her investments spanned from fashion and skincare to lash lines and business ventures. However, despite her glamorous portrayal of success, Jennifer's story took a dark turn that shocked fans. In March 2021, Jennifer Shah, along with her longtime assistant Stewart Smith, who also appeared on the show, was arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and money laundering. Authorities claimed they ran a nationwide scheme targeting vulnerable senior citizens. The indictment alleged that from 2012, Shah, Smith, and their co-conspirators ran a telemarketing fraud operation, convincing hundreds of victims, many of them elderly, that they were purchasing services for their online businesses. In reality, the supposed business opportunities were nothing more than fraudulent schemes designed to steal money. Prosecutors revealed that Shah and Smith sold lists of leads to other criminals who continued to scam the victims until they had drained every last dollar. U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss summed it up, stating, "The so-called business opportunities pushed on the victims by Shah, Smith, and their co-conspirators were just fraudulent schemes motivated by greed." While Jennifer had presented herself as a successful entrepreneur on RHOS LC, her reality was far from the luxurious life she had portrayed. The wire fraud charge she faced carried a maximum sentence of 30 years, while money laundering could have landed her 20 years behind bars. At first, Shah proclaimed her innocence, blaming her assistant, Stewart Smith, saying she was played by him. However, after months of legal battles, Jennifer ultimately pleaded guilty to the wire fraud charge. In January 2023, as part of a plea bargain, she was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison, marking a dramatic fall from grace for the woman who once flaunted her wealth on Ross LC. Now Jennifer Shah is serving her time behind bars and recently marked her 50th birthday in prison, a stark contrast to the life of glamour she once led. Used to pay the price for the lives she changed that evening on Lil Kim. Kimberly Lil Kim Jones was born in 1974 in New York City, the daughter of a U.S. Marine who left the family when she was just 9 years old. Clashing with her mother during her teenage years, Lil Kim dropped out of high school and spent time surviving on the streets and sleeping on friends' couches. During this turbulent period, she met the notorious Big, who became her mentor and launched her into the spotlight as part of his junior mafia collective, a close-knit crew of young Brooklyn rappers. His tragic death in 1997 rocked the group and marked a major turning point in her life. Undeterred, Lil Kim launched her solo career in 1996 with Hardcore, breaking records as one of the highest-charting debut albums by a female rapper. Tracks like Crush on You and No Time solidified her status as a trailblazer. Known for her bold lyrics, fearless style, and high-profile feuds with artists like Eve and Nicki Minaj, she became a fixture in pop culture. Her influence is undeniable, paving the way for a new generation of female rappers from Saweetie to Megan Thee Stallion. She also made notable appearances in films like Zoolander and You Got Served. Despite her success, Lil Kim faced legal trouble. In 2001, after a violent confrontation outside a Manhattan radio station, she lied to a grand jury to protect her associates. Surveillance footage contradicted her testimony, and in 2005 she was convicted of perjury and conspiracy. Though she faced up to 20 years, she served a 1-year sentence at a federal detention center in Philadelphia. In 2014, Lil Kim became a mother, giving birth to a daughter named Royal Reign. The child's father is rapper Mr. Papers, not the notorious Big, as is sometimes wrongly assumed. Her life story, marked by triumphs, controversies, and comebacks, remains one of the most compelling narratives in hip-hop history. From red carpet fashion to courtroom drama, what really happened to Theresa Giudice? If you're still watching, comment 1 inch to let us know you're here till the end. Zara Fithian. In 2015, Zara Fithian, alongside her husband, faced conviction for their involvement in disturbing acts that shocked the public. They were found guilty of committing crimes against underage victims, with the offenses dating back to between 2005 and 2008. The couple faced multiple charges, 14 counts in total, of misconduct that left a trail of devastation. The court held them accountable, with Zara's husband particularly criticized for his manipulative role in the abuse. Despite Zara being 37 at the time of her conviction, and seemingly a grown woman who should have known right from wrong, the trial judge pointed to her emotional dependence on her husband as a significant factor in her actions. Zara herself had consistently denied the allegations, calling them ridiculous when initially confronted by law enforcement, maintaining her innocence even as the overwhelming evidence mounted against her. The victim impact statements were heart-wrenching. One survivor described how she had lost her innocence and struggled to form meaningful relationships, while another victim shared how the news of the abuse nearly shattered her mother's spirit. Once a stuntwoman and actress, Zara didn't show remorse in the courtroom, instead waving to her supporters who cheered her on during her sentencing. Despite the gravity of the case, her behavior left many wondering how this shocking event could unfold in the world of Hollywood gossip. Now incarcerated, Zara has thrown herself into prison life, aiming to maintain the cleanliness of Foston Hall Prison in Derby. She's even taken an industrial cleaning course, working to turn her time behind bars into a way to contribute. By the end of her sentence, she may well become the most skilled cleaner in the British prison system. Amy Locane. On the night of June 27, 2010, Amy Locane's life took a tragic turn that would haunt her forever. After a night of heavy drinking, she was speeding home, driving nearly twice the legal speed limit. In a moment of catastrophic recklessness, she crashed into another car that was attempting to turn into a driveway. The collision sent Amy flying into a drainage ditch, though she escaped with only minor injuries. However, the crash killed the passenger of the other car and left the driver severely injured, pushing them dangerously close to death. When emergency responders arrived at the scene, they found Amy intoxicated and giggling, seemingly unaware of the devastation she had just caused. She appeared oblivious to the consequences of her actions, and even more unaware of how it would change the lives of the victim's family. In the aftermath, Amy was charged with vehicular assault and aggravated manslaughter. In December 2010, she was formally indicted, and by November 2012, a jury convicted her of assault by auto and vehicular homicide. She was sentenced to just 3 years behind bars, a verdict that left the victim's family devastated. They vowed to continue fighting for justice in court. After serving her sentence, Amy was released on parole in 2015, only to face an unexpected twist. She was served with divorce papers shortly afterward, but that was just the beginning of a lengthy legal saga. In 2016, an appeals court ruled that Amy's sentence had been too lenient. By February 2019, her original 3-year term was extended to 5 years. The drama didn't end there. In September 2020, Amy's sentence was further increased to 8 years, as the courts recognized the severity of her actions. Today, Amy Locane is serving her time, her life forever altered by that tragic night in 2010. What seemed like a fleeting mistake has turned into a long and painful journey as she continued. Shannon Richardson. Shannon Richardson's name may not ring a bell for most, but if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, you might remember her brief appearance as an extra. Despite her fleeting fame, Shannon's dark fascination with death and suffering would soon overshadow her acting career in a way no one could have predicted. In the midst of a bitter divorce from her third husband, Shannon took things to a chilling extreme. Rather than resorting to petty revenge like spiking his food, she plotted a much darker scheme, framing him for sending threatening letters laced with deadly substances to high-profile figures. The letters were sent to former President Barack Obama, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and a well-known non-profit leader. The plan worked initially, and her husband was arrested and interrogated, but he vehemently denied the charges. His defense wasn't enough to stop the police from turning their focus to Shannon. As the investigation unfolded, her story fell apart. She initially claimed that her husband had forced her to send the letters, but the truth eventually came out. In June 2013, Shannon was indicted. By November of the same year, she struck a plea deal to avoid more serious charges, but the consequences were still severe. In 2014, she was convicted and sentenced to 18 years in prison, fined $67,200, and ordered to serve 5 years of supervised release. Her projected release date is set for November 2028, which, if anything, might align with the world she briefly portrayed on the set of The Walking Dead. It's a strange, almost fitting twist. her experiences in the realm of Hollywood gossip now being mirrored in a real-life situation that could feel like the beginning of a zombie apocalypse. Before you go, tell us, what country are you watching from? We're diving into scandals that shocked the world, and we'd love to know where in the world you're tuning in from. Drop your country in the comments below and let's see how far this story has traveled. Skylar Deleon. Skylar Deleon's saga stands out as one of the most astonishing tales in recent Hollywood scandals, a twisted journey from childhood performer to condemned inmate, complete with a shocking twist on death row. Born John Julius Jacobson Jr., Skylar tasted early fame in commercials and even scored a bit part on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. She joined the Marines at 20, but was discharged for going AWOL. Later, posing as a successful real estate investor, she met Tom and Jackie Hawkes, a warm-hearted couple, eager to sell their yacht, the Well-Deserved, for $440,000 so they could finally settle near their grandchildren. On November 15, 2004, Skylar, her pregnant wife, and 2 associates joined the Hawks for what was billed as a routine sea trial. By nightfall, the yacht returned alone. Its owners vanished without explanation. Alarmed, the Hawks family pushed investigators to act. Skylar calmly insisted she'd lawfully purchased the yacht and even presented forged paperwork. The case seemed destined for deadlock until March 2005, when one accomplice fled to Mexico only to return under pressure and confess everything. His testimony detailed how Skylar and her crew forced the couple to sign over the yacht and then cast them overboard in a fatal act. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Skylar's lawyer abandoned any real defense, focusing solely on avoiding a death sentence. In October 2007, Skylar's wife was convicted on 2 counts of deadly attack and handed 2 life terms without parole. Another associate received a death sentence soon after. In April 2009, Skylar herself was condemned for her role in the Hawks' deaths and a separate fatal incident, and has been cooling her heels on death row at San Quentin ever since. The story took another startling turn in 2019 when Skylar legally changed her gender to female while incarcerated. California's correction system approved her petition for gender affirmation and transferred her to a women's facility. Skylar later claimed she orchestrated the yacht plot to fund her transition, a justification that ignited fierce debate over whether someone convicted of such brutal crimes should qualify for state-supported medical care. Critics decried the move as twisted, while advocates argued that basic dignity extends to all inmates, no matter their past. Today, Skylar Deleon remains one of the rare women on death row in the United States, her life a stark reminder of betrayal, deceit, and unforeseen consequences. And if you think her tale is unsettling, stay tuned. Up next, we'll expose how another high-profile figure narrowly escaped a prison sentence and rocked the world of red carpet fashion. From Cassandra Ventura's bombshell lawsuit in November 2023 to a flood of additional accusations, federal raids on Diddy's properties, his arrest and indictment in September 2024, and multiple failed attempts to secure bail, each chapter has brought new intensity. Several superseding indictments followed, painting a darker and more complex picture with each update. And now, on May 12, 2025, the trial has officially entered its next chapter. The jury has been finalized, opening statements have been delivered, and the first witnesses have taken the stand. Outside the courthouse, New York feels electric. Hundreds have gathered, some cheering loudly for Sean Diddy Combs, others just as vocal in their outrage over the charges he faces. The sidewalk has become a battleground of applause, boos, and camera flashes, underscoring the high-stakes drama unfolding inside. As the courtroom battles rage on and disturbing new revelations come to light, one thing is certain. This isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's a reckoning that could reshape the future of power, fame, and accountability in America. Whether Diddy walks free or falls from grace, the outcome of this trial will echo far beyond Hollywood. Make sure to follow our channel for real-time updates, exclusive insights, and breaking twists from inside the courtroom. The next revelation might change everything.